Hey, I'm tired. I'm still wearing the same shirt as I was last time. And I'm talking about another movie that I'm going to proclaim is my favorite movie of 2020. Yes, they keep coming in a row, like boom, David Attenborough, awesome documentary, 10 out of 10. This movie, 10 out of 10, masterpiece. What a great probably in the next video I'm going to be like, this next movie is my favorite of the year. That's just going to be a ongoing joke from now on. This movie's the movie of the year, but I'm dead serious about this one. I love this movie. I hadn't heard of it until recently, so I figured, I'm gonna check this movie out. It's got an actor I really love in it. It's a Korean film, so I know I know some people will be like, oh, I don't want to watch a Korean film. I don't want to watch a movie with the subtitles in there. Which is a shame, because if you feel that way about subtitled movies, I really genuinely think that you're missing a lot of genuinely good stuff. Like genuinely good stuff. And this is no exception, in my opinion. It's a political drama history thriller called The Man Standing Next. It was released late in January of this year, 2020. January 24 it came out. Wow. I don't even know where to begin on this, because I wasn't really well versed in the history of politics when it comes to South Korea, but basically, just to read the synopsis here on IMDb really quick. In the 1970s, Korea is under absolute control of the President Park, who controls the KCIA, the organization with the edge over any branch of government. So basically, this isn't a spoiler, because they outright come out with this information. It's even the tagline on the poster, like, why did he pull the trigger, or something like that. But this is about the assassination of the then president at that time, named President Park. And this is the type of movie that is built for me. It's very slow moving, slow burn type movie. But I was on the edge of my seat the entire time with this film. I loved all the performances throughout, especially from Lee Byung-hun, who is just every movie I see of him that I haven't seen before cements him as one of my favorite actors of all time. This guy has been in masterpiece after masterpiece. The only movies of his that I didn't particularly like are his American movies. Like, I think he was in one of those G.I. Joe movies, if not both of them. Some other random... Oh, Terminator Genesis. He was like the replacement liquid metal guy in that, who got quickly taken out of the equation. So it's like, oh, okay. So much for the liquid metal T-1000 being an intimidating presence. Not anymore. You can just take them out immediately, apparently, now. But in Korea, they treat him well. All of his movies that I've seen from him in his homeland are extraordinary. From literally one of my favorite movies of all time, called A Bittersweet Life. I'd highly recommend that movie. From I think it was 2005 or 6 that came out. A Bittersweet Life, I Saw the Devil, which is, again, another, like, it's not one of my favorite movies, but it's a movie that will always stick with me. It's a masterpiece, absolutely. It's very hard to watch, because it's very violent, and but it's gripping, it's thought-provoking, it's a hell of a lot more interesting than majority, if not all, of the revenge movies coming out of America. Maybe give and take something like Blue Ruin. I think it coincides with something like that. I love revenge movies that take the violence seriously, to where it's not cartoony, over the top, like ridiculous. Some movies do it well, so I don't want to be a hypocrite and say, oh, all movies that don't take their violence seriously are just trash. But normally that's what I prefer movies to do, is to take the violence in a more serious way, sort of like this film does with its violence. Especially by the last half hour, 45 minutes of this, gets very gripping, very intense. And it's not even that long of a movie. I was surprised to see that it was just under 2 hours. Like, it's only an hour 54 minutes, which is really shocking because they jam pack it with so much information. And surprisingly, I was able to keep up with it. Like, I wasn't asking myself, like, okay, who's who and what's going on? I maybe did that like once or twice, but it was just for a quick second, and then in the next scene they resolve it, which was probably intentional to make you sort of like just as confused as these characters are in this like political landscape of the 1970s. This movie's shot beautifully, by the way. This movie, so much energy, so much effort put into making this feel authentic to the era it takes place in the 70s. I'm just so impressed with this film. Everything about it, from the lead performance, quite honestly, I think the lead performance here is good enough that it deserves an Oscar nomination. I doubt he will, because I don't know, it's the Academy Awards. Maybe, I mean, it might come true, because it's I just noticed here on IMDb that it's their official, I think the South Korean submission for the 93rd Academy Awards in 2021. So that gives me hope, you know, Best International Feature Film. I hope it, quite frankly, at least of the ones I've seen so far, which I haven't seen many, so I might change my opinion later, who knows. But going off of this, I mean, I'd say I hope this movie wins for sure, because quite easily the best movie I've seen so far this year. And again, that's probably going to be a joke in the coming month or so, because, you know, there are probably going to be several other movies to watch and go like, oh, that's the best movie of this year as well, and blah 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 blah. But yeah, there's something so special about this movie. I love historical movies like this, something that teaches you something that you didn't know before, but does it in a way where it's thoroughly entertaining. This is a very suspenseful movie. It was like oh, I was on the edge of my seat. The closest I can compare this movie, especially with the score really drives that home. Like, there are 2 or 3 sequences where the score is just like so intense. Like, you just feel like your heart racing and you're sitting on the edge of your seat wondering what the hell's gonna happen next. Very, very compelling stuff. Very informative film. Of course, they take some liberties, and I appreciate that at the start of the movie they let you know, hey, there's some creative liberties going on here. You could tell, like, mostly where these creative liberties are. Like, some of the more action-y things that happen, like, for instance, there's this scene in a car that's kind of like, okay, that probably didn't happen in real life, but they're playing it realistically enough to where I could believe that it did happen. And also, it's nice to see a break from all like the political stuff. It was nice to see sort of like this action beat. It's not like extended. It's quick enough to be like, okay, this is compelling stuff, and this like raises the stakes. And keeps my attention too, because I know certain people would probably be watching this and go, when's the next action scene? It's like, give it time, give it time. By the time you reach the end here, and thankfully, like the start of the movie, like I alluded to, it basically tells you straight up that, hey, this is about the assassination of President Park. You know, so I had no idea what it was about, but right off the get-go, like within the first 2-3 minutes or so, it let me know right away, hey, this is what we're doing. This is who the main character is. This is what he's going to do. So I was just waiting for it to happen. And by the time you get to that sequence that they play at the beginning of the film, like they show you a little basically teaser of what to expect from that scene, Once you get to the full-on sequence, it is so intense. The closest I can compare it to is how I felt when I was first watching The Dark Knight. There's certain sequences in The Dark Knight that are so intense and so riveting that like, and the score backing up with it too, like that intense sort of Hans Zimmer score in the background, very intense stuff, like just ramps up the scene to the nth degree. Certain sequences in this, at least 2 or 3 in particular, are very, very gripping, especially due to that score. And I can't praise this movie enough. It makes me want to study more about South Korean politics and what have you, because I hadn't known about this before, but it's very compelling stuff, riveting, absolute masterpiece in my opinion this film is. I'm just gonna look up something on YouTube here because I wanted to give this guy a shout out. I wanted to do it at the top of this video, but I forgot, of course. Good old me. But basically, I discovered this channel that does reviews. I think he does reviews exclusively for Korean films. Okay, yeah. So this guy, I think he's. I think it's this channel. Let me just check it just in case. Okay, it is this channel. I was like, is it? Because like he also has the trailer and the 2 trailers that came out for the film on his channel as well. But so yeah, this channel name is Eon Talk. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I think it's Eon Talk, like EONTALK, connecting Korea to the world one movie at a time. This guy, I don't know if he's just a singular guy or if it's a team of people behind this channel, but very impressive channel. I watched a few of their videos the other day. Like, they got videos for the best Korean comedies, action movies, thrillers, historical movies, and so some really great videos, and I look forward to watching more to discover more Korean cinema that's worth seeking out. So I looked up the review for The Man Standing Next, and the only review that I noticed that popped up was for this Eon Talk channel, and it's a really great channel. I'd highly recommend it to you guys, especially if you're seeking out new films to watch, because you know, here in Canada or America, whatever North American part of the world you are, or you're in, or whatever, it's always fun to explore new types of movies. I think at some point I'd love to I'd just love to go around the globe and just watch movies from every part of the world, you know, to get a different perspective on things, because you know, obviously movies here in Canada are more from either Canada or America, you know, like, so we get that on Netflix. It's like, here's all the American junk, here's all the Canadian junk, some of it's good, some of it's not, and that's about it. And if you want something else, you'll have to either get another streaming service or what have you, or God knows what. You'll have to dig deeper for it. But yeah, I love this film. I love this actor. I really hope this gets... it's got a 7 out of 10 on IMDb. Here on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a... it doesn't have many reviews here on Rotten Tomatoes, so it doesn't even really count in my opinion. It's a 75% with 8 total reviews from critics, 9 reviews from... 9 verified ratings from audience members, 100% from them on Rotten Tomatoes. So obviously lean more towards believing the IMDb score here of 7 out of 10. I quite honestly think though that everybody's really going to get a kick out of this. I think people will... I'd genuinely be surprised if somebody watched this and went, I hated that movie. I'd be like, really? You hated it? Why? Like, what's going on here? Do you just not like subtitled movies? Is that it? Okay, like, remind me to never recommend you a subtitled movie again then. Because, well, it's sad, because you're missing a lot if you don't want to watch subtitled movies. I don't know what the hell to tell you. I mean, you must hate it when American or Canadian or whatever movies, English movies in general, have subtitled bits, you know, where you go, oh no, not the subtitled bit, now I have to read? It's like, yeah, you have to read, oh no. You know, there's some English parts in this movie, and the Eon Talks channel that I was referring to, he brings that up in his review. He's a little less favorable towards it than I am, so take that into account. The fact that this guy is more well versed in Korean cinema than I am. I've seen quite a few Korean films, but obviously not as many as this guy. Like I hadn't seen any of the films he named in his 10 historical Korean movies list that I watched last night, and I was up so late last night. By the time this movie was over, I think it was like 3:30, 4 a.m. or something like that. I was just so I'm dead tired today, dead tired. That's why I got this good old coffee here. So yeah, I hope more of you get the chance to see this movie. Again, I feel like I'm repeating myself here, but that's okay. I highly recommend this film. I'd give it a 10 out of 10. Perfect score, perfect movie. At least as near perfect as possible. I mean, this was such a gripping experience. Easily my favorite film of the year so far. Just narrowly beats the David Attenborough documentary, because I learned so much from this movie that I didn't know before. I was so compelled by the cinematography, by the score, by the amazing performances, the impeccable directing, and the fantastic screenplay here. Everything about this film is firing on all cylinders. It really gets you invested into this world, and it happens to be based in reality, so it's even more better for it, I guess. I don't know. And it's a very relevant movie to what's kind of going on today, because they, by the end of the film, they're talking about somewhere in South Korea, like they're riding in the streets and whatnot, and they take a helicopter at one point, they're looking down, and it's like all this buildings are being lit on fire, destruction everywhere, and it's crazy that stuff that's happening now, whether it be either, you know, more so in America. I'm blanking on whether or not it's happened here in Canada, the whole rioting and looting. I'm pretty sure it has, because it just sort of naturally expanded out to the entire world. But very relevant to what's going on now. Very compelling, very intriguing, the whole political landscape of South Korea. I was very intrigued by this movie, 100% invested in it the whole entire time from beginning to end. And easily one of the best last acts of a movie I've seen in years. Like one of the best. And I love how this film, like you think that it's going to wrap up after a certain scene happens, like it's this amazing aerial shot of this car basically turning around. And before then, it's a close-up on Lee Byung-hun's face. And it's just such a riveting performance from him. Such an intense sort of like finale. I mean, like the whole finale really knocks this film out of the park, in my opinion. Makes it an absolute grand slam. So yeah, I really like how this film continues on after you think it's over. It has sort of like this epilogue where they have dialogue from the real life counterparts involved in this movie. And I found that to be incredibly informative. and kind of sad in a way too, because by the end of this film, it's not a it's not a happy ending, to say the least. It's a very dark film throughout. It just keeps ramping up in tension and in stakes. And yeah, so now I'm just at the point in the video where I'm repeating myself. So if you haven't seen this film, go watch it, please, and thank you. Do yourself a favor, go watch The Man Standing Next. Absolutely my favorite movie of the year thus far that I've seen. And yeah, once more, highly recommend it. 2 thumbs up, gold star, A+. Check this movie out. Take care, you guys. I'll see you on the next video.